You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. Tigers are back on the practice field. Day 6 of fall camp on Wednesday. Afterwards, we had a chance to visit with LSU offensive coordinator Joe Sloan. It was so interesting when Sloan was asked about the team, and he also talked a lot about this offensive staff, which has been they've been great, and like the continuity is part of it, right? Because yes, you lose Mike Denbrock, but you promote from within, which I understand. Listen, you're taking a shot there. You are. I mean, LSU could have gone and hired the most accomplished offensive coordinator that was available, but they saw a guy within who's been an offensive coordinator, play caller before, who's in an ascending offensive mind in a world where young offensive minds are getting these opportunities. Just think to Lincoln Riley getting that opportunity at Oklahoma, not only to be the OC in his early 30s, then the head coach. I'm not saying that Joe Sloan's going to be LSU's next head coach, but you could tell the trend that Brian Kelly is following here, something he did very similar with Tommy Rees in South Bend. But Sloan talked about that offensive staff.
You know, it starts with really upstairs with the cohesion that we've really developed on offense with our offensive staff. We got a lot of continuity over the last couple of years, and then the guys who have added in, it's been an unbelievable mix. A lot of guys bringing great thought, great ideas, and just bringing so much to the table. And I think that carries over to the players, the time that we have together as an offensive staff and how we interact with each other.
You know, I think it took 3 years, but Brian Kelly has assembled now one of the best staffs in college football. There were some misses when he got hired. We talked about it ad nauseum here, but I think when you look now at the quality they have from Frank Wilson, we all know Frank's legacy here. Cortez Hankton, who you got from Georgia, who's an NFL wide receiver. Joe Sloan, obviously, in his role. Slade Nagel coaching tight ends. And then we've talked a ton about the defensive side and what they've done there now as well. It took a while for Brian Kelly to get it right, but I think he's there now. I asked Joe Sloan about the tight end room with the news that Mac Markway is entering the transfer portal. And the way that I sort of framed it was you're replacing that skill set, because when you look at Mason Taylor, you've got a very complete player, a guy that is on a lot of people's lists either the best or second best projected tight end in college football this year. He's one of the top. But after that, with Kamorian Pimpton and Trey'Dez Green, you're talking about guys that are not traditional tight ends. And Brian Kelly likes a traditional tight end. He wants a guy that can put his hand in the dirt and block, and then also is athletic in the pitch and catch game. Well, Pimpton and Trey'Dez Green are not guys that you're going to really think of as attached tight ends that are going to put their hands in the dirt and the block. I will say, we did see 21 personnel today, 2 tight ends, 1 back, and it was interesting because Kamorian Pimpton was the sort of attached tight end, and Mason Taylor flexed out. I think they're going to try a lot of those different looks now with some of those changes. But here's what Joe Sloan had to say about this tight end room without Mac Markway.
We have an unbelievable group in that room. Coach Nagel's doing a great job with those guys. The improvement that Mason Taylor's made going in from his second year to his third year this offseason, and watching his progression in his route running, really doing an unbelievable job with his base. And then as you watch the growth of Kamorian Pimpton and the growth of Trey'Dez Green already, and we got other guys in that room, right? Giovanni Peterson, who's been in this program now for a couple years, and just continuing to work with our process and get better and make improvements. That group is one of the most exciting groups on our football team. I can't say enough about where we're going with that room and how those guys are working together, how they're pushing each other. And we've seen a lot of growth in the first 6 practices. I expect to see the same thing over the next several.
I'm glad he brought up Giovanni Peterson without me having to mention the name. And I tell you this all the time. Sometimes I'll ask a question and you leave it open-ended, because if a coach brings something up unprovoked, that's what's in their mind. So the fact that Sloan mentioned Peterson is really interesting. By the way, Peterson was out there taking reps the first day of practice. I mean, and he's been out there. He's a personal protector on the punt team. So he's a guy that's been around the program now for 3 years that they like a lot. He's just buried on the depth chart behind a lot of really talented scholarship players. Well, think back to Brian Kelly's first year. Who was the guy when they were looking for bodies? Remember that they brought as a big-bodied attached tight end? Well, it was Nick Storrs. Remember the baseball pitcher who they brought over? Like, I mean, you could always use an extra offensive lineman as a sixth blocker, but then you're predictable by personnel. Storrs was there last year. I'm blanking on his name now, but they brought a kid in from JUCO who was going to be just another offensive tackle who they were going to use as a tight end and grow. But I'm blanking on his name right now. Do you know? Look up the roster from last year, please. I think he wore number 89. I'm blanking on the name. But anyway, they've always Connor Gilbreth. Thank you. That was it. It was Connor Gilbreth. So I guess my point is 2 years of Brian Kelly. You saw it with Storrs, then Gilbreth. It wouldn't be that far-fetched to think Giovanni Peterson could have a role as a blocking tight end on this team if you need that skill set. Something that we know undeniable is LSU's got great receivers. If you missed it today, the Biletnikoff Award watch list was released, and C.J. Daniels was on the Biletnikoff watch list. Stunning, quite honestly, and a huge miss that Kyron Lacy was not on the list because Kyron Lacy is the number one wide receiver on this team and is the next guy to step up. But Daniels was a 1,000-yard receiver a year ago at Liberty and is maybe the number 3 on this team right now. Talented guy, and I think going to have a fantastic season. But what's really interesting is the room beyond those 3 that you know are there. And Sloan talked about his pass catchers.
The level from maybe guys that you haven't talked about, you see elevating. When I look at Aaron Anderson and Kyle Parker and the way that they're elevating throughout camp, Shelton Sampson showed a lot of growth at some of his different opportunities. And, we've talked about Xavion and we talked about all those different guys, but I think there's more than just those 3 who have been doing and flashing in different ways. I'm really excited about, our couple young guys and where they can go. But Kyron, Chris, and CJ played a lot of football, and I think they're definitely showing it, and what they've done is when they have an opportunity to make plays, we've tried to put them in position to do that. And when they've had that opportunity, I think you've seen all 3 of them kind of rise to the occasion.
Kylan Billiot had 2. Speaking of the receivers aside from those top 3, Kylan Billiot had 2 great catches today. One off a tip pass off of Jair Brown. Javen Nicholas had a contested TD catch today. You just look up and down. Every day it's somebody else making plays in that wide receiver room. It really is going to be interesting to see how you feed so many mouths in that receiver room because they are very deep and very talented. 2 more things from Sloan. One is about Nussmeier and his relationship there with Garrett Nussmeier, who obviously hasn't played a ton, but is a guy that's been around for a long time and is a bit of an outlier in college football.
Honesty and straightforwardness is the best way, right? And that's what we're always going to do within this program. Coaching's about relationships and trust. And Garrett and my conversation back and forth and Coach Kelly's conversation with him and throughout our organization. We're honest with where he was, excited about the talent and potential that he has and who he is as a player. And I'm assuming he felt himself getting better, right? And he said, I'm getting better and I got an opportunity. I think you've heard it. I think this place means a lot to him. His teammates mean a lot to him, and that was important to him. So I'm proud of him for that fact, and proud of how he's worked, and I'm excited for him.
Sloan also talked about new 2-minute warning, how Brian Kelly's got processes in place for that. The new helmet comm where Sloan will be calling plays on the headset into Garrett Nussmeier's helmet. They've got a plan in place for if the comm goes down, like they'll do. All right, comm went down, next 4 plays, we're calling him old school, but Garrett's been here for so long, that's just very easy and natural transition. So it's one of those things under Brian Kelly where he really is, we've talked about it a lot since he's been here, but he's so detail-oriented that all of the things that may feel like minutia, everything is considered and there's a plan for it. It's one of the reasons that for 33 years, he's been a successful head coach everywhere. He's won everywhere because he knows how to build a program. For him, it's really just how do you get over that final hurdle to be the team that wins the last game and holds up the trophy. Of course, you got to keep building the roster to get there. And the last thing from Sloan, remember, of course, a year ago, LSU was the best offense in the scoring and total offense in the country. But you lose Jaden Daniels, and Jaden was your leading rusher with 1,100 yards. So conceptually, you're going to be very different running the football. I love this answer. Joe Sloan was asked, like, did you add to the playbook with a new running game? Because obviously Nussmeier isn't going to run for 1,100 yards. Listen to how he answered it.
Our playbook has been big since we got here. We can call every play. If you see a play on TV, we could have called it. You know what I mean? In our terminology, right? So our offense had a lot of ability to adjust to what we wanted to do. We had done some of those things in the past, but maybe within game, right, what some of you guys may have seen, hey, you felt like we were leaning more towards, one or two schemes or whatever that might have been. So no, we had a lot of those things. Everything is about creating the package that fits us. And, and then we'll attack the defenses that we're going to see, in different kind of ways, right? Obviously, we're going to be able to do whatever we need to do to attack the defense, but yet allow our players to understand what we're doing.
If you see a play on TV, we can call it. That's pretty reassuring. But I think the big question for Joe, it being a play call, he's called plays before, he called plays at Tech, but this will be his first time calling plays at LSU. How much comfort and rhythm does he get into as a play caller? That'll be interesting to see, and that we'll only know whenever they tee it up and kick it off against USC coming up here in a little more than 3 weeks. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.